Hello, and welcome to Women in Sport, the podcast that celebrates women in sport. It's a cryptic title, I know. I'm your host, Rhian Evans. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's lovely to have you here. And I'm delighted to welcome my guest in this week's episode, the woman and machine that is local boxing star and recent runner of 100 miles in less than 24 hours. Just for the fun of it, the first woman in Manx history to do so, Nikki Arthur.
So I boxed for the Isle of Man for about 6 years, but it probably started for me back in my really early 20s. So I actually was quite late coming into combat sport. I moved to Manchester as part of like my university degree, and I lived across from a kickboxing gym, and I decided to just give it a go, and loved it, stuck at it. When I moved back to Glasgow, I stuck at it again, and I've just found different gyms like here, there and everywhere whenever I've like moved. When I moved over to the Isle of Man, I initially joined a Muay Thai gym and was training with them, but wasn't able to compete with them, so was desperate for competition basically. I really wanted to see how I would actually get on in the ring. And I joined the boxing club. They were called Vikings at the time, and then moved to Manx ABC, and then from Manx ABC, the rest is sort of history. I've loved it ever since I started it. I just love everything about sort of the training and the fighting and all that sort of it. So that is how I sort of came into the sport. But Thai boxing and kickboxing was like my first sport, but I moved to sort of Western style boxing to get competition.
Mm-hmm. What made you stop? We were just saying you the last time you competed was about a year ago.
Yeah, so about a year ago. So I got a promotion in my job. So, and I can't dedicate the thank you. I can't dedicate the time to training that I could previously, and I've moved up to the stage now, what we call elite, and I'm up against girls that are boxing for England, boxing for Scotland, boxing for GB even, and I just don't have the same amount of time on my plate as what they might do, and I just was finding it hard to balance the training and work and living as well. So I had my sort of last competition, last fight over on the Isle of Man just over a year ago. So. Mm-hmm.
And do you miss it?
Yeah, I do miss it. I still train, and I would never say never. I'm like, I'll never say never, but I don't think I'll compete again, but you just never know.
What about coaching? Would you ever go into coaching?
Yeah, so I have. I've been coaching this year, actually, doing a few Muay Thai sessions. But I've also done. I've done my coaching badge with boxing with Manx ABC myself, and a few of the other girls have done it. So I would probably end up going down that path. But again, it's just at the moment with my other commitments, it's quite hard to balance, and I'm still enjoying training an awful lot, so I'm quite selfish, and I'd rather train.
You've got to be though.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly. Yeah.
And just for those of us who aren't up to scratch with like the different styles of boxing, can you tell me what? Is it Muay Thai? I'm just thinking of Muay Thai. Maybe I'm just a functioning alcoholic.
So Muay Thai is like Thai boxing. So it's different to Western style boxing because you can use your legs, you can use your knees, and you can use your elbows as well. Okay. So it's the sort of striking that you see in like the UFC or that sort of thing. It's all that sort of stuff. Whereas Western boxing is obviously just using your hands. Yeah. But Thai boxing, you can use everything basically.
Cool. And in terms of the boxing scene on the island, what's the participation rate like for women and for girls?
For girls, it's still low, but improving, definitely. So Manx ABC have just opened a new gym down in Douglas called Isle of Man Boxing Fitness Academy, and there's actually loads of girls going there, including sort of junior girls, like actually going to the boxing sessions, which is amazing to see. It's always been sort of low numbers. Like when I was first starting out, there was no other girls at the time. There was a girl previous to me called Cassie Hutchinson, and she was sort of probably the sort of big, like the first big girl like that was on with regards to the boxing scene, and she's trained trained and sparred and fought some of like the top like GB athletes as well. So she, but unfortunately, when I came into boxing, she was she had children, so she wasn't about. So I just got pushed around by the boys all the time, which I kind of loved, to be honest. So
yeah, so you were training with the guys.
Yeah.
And was that ever because we have similar things? I spoke to some basketball girls for a different episode of this podcast, and their biggest thing is the fact that they don't have enough women to play, so they play against the boys. But they said, the guys at first were a little bit, would like hold off a bit, which is irritating. And she said, but once they realised we were there to really play, they stepped up their game, and then that obviously actually helped us really improve. So was it a similar case in boxing?
Yeah, totally, really similar. When I first moved over here, my Thai coach, he's called Ben Corkish, he was very much like, she's not a girl, she's a fighter, that he had an excellent attitude towards it. And if he ever felt like the boys were sort of giving me an easy time, he would like call them out on it. And I was really grateful for that. And in the end, I went into my second fight for boxing, or my second bout for boxing, and I got a really, really hard time off this girl, and I do genuinely believe it was the hard times that I'd taken off the boys on my Saturday sparring sessions that got me through that fight. So yeah, definitely. It's hard for them as well. It's difficult to know how much power and that sort of thing. But once you get used to it, they'll get a lot out of sparring me, because I'm a bit annoying to spar. Like, I'm right in your face like all the time, punch, just annoying like a bee, like there all the time, like you can't get rid. So they really have to work out ways to sort of deal with that. And with, obviously for me, it's taking big shots and learning to avoid big shots. And like a lot of I don't think there's any of the boys on the island that I was sparring that were my height either. So I got so much from it. Yeah.
Good. Well, we do speak about that quite a lot, is the fact that both men and women and men can get equal benefits from training against each other. And I think, men are most of the time, naturally born bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah,
but women then play differently. They play smart and they play quick and they play measured. And then it's about guys adapting to that. And you see it on mixed netball teams. These guys are tall. Like I'm the shortest person on any netball team that I've ever been on. But the way you then adapt your play, like to do fakes and look away passes and just really measured balls, and you see the guys look really confused on court, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm nowhere near as tall as you, but I can learn something from them and they can learn something from me.
Absolutely.
So and it sounds like you had that with your boxing, which is ace.
Yeah, really good.
In terms of like reputation, boxing, similar to rugby and football, has often been seen as more of a men's sport.
Yeah.
Would you say that reputation is still lingering?
Oh yeah, I definitely think it is still lingering. However, I think it is massively improving. Even from when I started like 5 years ago, the numbers just on the amateur boxing scene is exploded. Seeing like lots of really, really young girls coming into it, and it not being even questioned anymore. Back when I was sort of training, I went back to Scotland at times and did a few squad sessions with the Scottish team, and some of the Scottish boxing clubs, like only just then, we're only talking 5 years ago, only were just letting females in. It's mad.
I was just looking at before you came up, actually looking at the history, and they only approved International Amateur Boxing Association accepted new rules for women's boxing. And also approved the first European Cup in 1999, World Championships in 2001, Olympic Games 2012.
I know.
Which is ridiculous.
Crazy,
and it was
it?
saying like women have been boxing since the 18th century, but they were outlawed.
Yeah, it wasn't a done thing. Like it wasn't able to to be seen. I was lucky enough to go to a sparring camp in Ireland that had Mary Com, who's like one of the biggest female boxers, and she basically came from nothing, like hid it from her family, like everything, and then went and got Olympic, made the Olympic dream come true and all that sort of thing. And like that's the sort of like caliber of people I've been in the company of, and it really is people that have come from nothing and hidden it. There's another girl that I've boxed called Ramla. was the first ever Muslim female to win a national championship. And and she's again come from, she had a really bad accident and picked herself back up again, and came back to the sport, and is doing loads for females in sport, for Muslims in sport, for like all that sort of thing. So she's just amazing as well. Yeah, so it is definitely even improved from, like I say, 5-6 years ago. But I think it's always going to be there. And I hope these big massive female fights that we're getting now, obviously like Katie Taylor was boxing at the weekend, and it was like a main card, it was a main event, it's not just an undercard anymore, and people really do take interest in it now. So hopefully it will go that way, where it's just a boxing event. It's not a male and a female bout. Do you know what I mean? It's just an event, and there's male and female on the card, and that's it. It's just always the way it's going to be. Like the UFC's definitely went that way, so I do hope that boxing will go that way as well, and it is. Yeah. But I think it will still take time, because it is the gentleman's sport, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's great that you're saying change is happening and really quite quickly. What do you think has sparked that?
I think it's just girls putting themselves out there, going along to gyms, and just like I could have went to the gym and been the only girl there and just been like, oh, that's it, I'm not going back. It's like just being like, no, like I deserve this place at the table. I want to box. Like, why should this be a male orientated sport? Like you say, as if it never came into the Olympics until 2012, but that'll have been a massive point for people being like, oh, I can do this, and I can go into this gym, and I want to try this. And I definitely think nowadays society has got a lot of focus on fitness and things like that, and people want to try things that are fun, and there's nothing better than going down and hitting a bag or hitting a pad or hitting a pal.
We did a bit of it as part of one of our sessions for the Island Netball squad. They got us to do a little bit of boxing.
Did they?
I was knackered after like a minute and a half. I was just like, wow, I am not as fit as I thought. It was ridiculous.
There's fit and there's boxing fit, and it definitely is like
it's ridiculous.
A huge difference. Yeah. You've got to be like it's a weird sport, because you've got to be an all-rounder, because it's like you've got to be like strong, you've got to be powerful, but you've got to be light on your feet, and you've got to have power, and you've got to have endurance, and it's you really are just a mix.
Speed as well.
Like to be smart as well, and it is one of the most complicated physical sports, I would say, but it's totally primal as well. You go into autopilot sometimes and just get through. But it is a very, very difficult sport, and I think that's again what drew me to it as well. It's like I loved the fitness. I loved the fact that my fitness just went straight away, like exploded. So yeah,
that's brilliant. Have you ever experienced anything negative from doing boxing, with that reputation and that stigma of it being a men's sport?
No, I've been quite lucky, to be fair. Everybody over here has been really supportive, and I think particularly at the time when I was sort of coming up through sort of with Manx ABC, I had there wasn't a lot of senior boxers at the time, so I had a lot of time with the coaches and a lot of time away and things like that. So I only ever have seen, a supportive side of that. I've never had anything like, oh, don't think she should be doing that, or, that sort of thing. I've had a few jokes about, what if you get a black eye going into a meeting and things like that? And I'm like, well, I'm accident prone anyway. I could open a door wrong and get a black eye. Do you know what I mean? So my makeup skills are excellent now. But I don't see why I should be ashamed of going into a meeting with a black eye if a guy can go and play rugby on a Saturday and come in with the same black eye. Why is it different? Not just because my face is female. It's not.
It is mad, isn't it, that those things do still linger?
Yeah.
How it is definitely, when you put it that way, it's really good. It's a lot more acceptable for a man to look beaten up and bruised than it is for a lady.
For a lady to come in, and I'm like, well, I don't care. I literally wear them afraid. Like I
same.
I really don't mind. And I'm happy to explain it to people as well. So. Yeah.
How would you encourage more girls and more women to take up the sport?
I think it's self-consciousness, and I still find it, even if I'm going to a gym that I'm not too sure of, or I don't particularly know. I think it's, just get over that self-consciousness. Like, when you're in the gym, and I think you go in and everybody's going to be like, oh my God, why is she here, and why is she doing that, or what's she doing? Actually, when you go into a boxing gym, people are just trying not to die. People are just desperate for breath and like focused on themselves. And
it's mad that everyone is pretty much thinking the same thing. Oh, I hope no one's looking at me, and everyone else is just thinking, I hope no one's looking at me.
I think it's just bite that bullet. It is. There's so many more female faces, at the moment in boxing gyms, but that shouldn't be why you go. You should just be going because you want to go. Like, and I'm all for female only sessions to bring up the numbers and stuff, but I think it should be everybody in at the same time, and so it's just being brave more than anything. It's like anything. It's not even just with sport. It's putting yourself out there and getting yourself in, and not being ashamed to just try something new and look like an idiot if you have to for 5 minutes. It's
and if you don't like it, then you're not going to be sat around thinking what if.
Exactly.
But you're so right. I mean, we talk a lot in these episodes about segregated training. There seems to be much less of a gap in things like athletics and single sports, whilst in team sports it's so and a lot of the time we keep coming back to, if they did PE from primary school mixed and kept that the whole way through, there wouldn't be necessarily the negative reputations around girls' sports being boring and therefore not getting as much coverage and therefore not getting as much money. And it all seems to come back down to grassroots level, where if you just train together, there won't be that gap there. Certainly, I would think not as much, at least.
I totally would agree with that as well. I like the girls and boys PE thing, even in school, is like their games lessons are all girls and boys, and
rounders and cricket,
and it is a grassroots thing. It's not anything that's going to change overnight, and but it is a tough one, because there is time and a place for female against female and male against male, but there's so much can be gained from mixed training as well. So
and there's reputations as well. I think netball being a girls' sport. One of the guys on my mixed netball team last week, he's brilliant. He's a basketballer, and he got like 4 intercepts before a single goal was scored. And I was like, he's good.
Very good.
And he was like, oh, I'm glad I joined up, because my mates were giving me a bit of stick. And I was like, I don't even know that guy that well, but I was like, you know what? That annoys me. I was like, you are a damn good netballer. And netball's hard, And I just think, like rounders, everyone loves rounders. But cricket is, again, seen more as a men's sport still. And football also, I remember being in school and with rugby, and it was like if the girls wanted to play football and rugby, the boys and girls would be like, oh, they're a lesbian. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's the fact that they're using that negatively, in high school, where people are feeling awkward and self-conscious already. So I think it's just that splitting feels so archaic now, and it does cause that.
Definitely.
You wonder where reputations come from. I think it's there, really.
I know it is mad, and like school is an example of where it is, like, girls and boys, and you're right, people, like, I work in a school myself, so that sort of time, going through sort of key stage 4, where everything is changing in your body, in your mind, in your like life, it must be so hard. And then we do that. It works. It does work in certain ways as well. But I do think there is time for mixed training. You were right, talking about athletics, last night obviously there was the championships on, and like feeling totally inspired by Rachel Franklin, not because she's a female in sport, but because she's damn fast.
Just an
Do you know
athlete,
what I mean?
yeah.
And running with the boys and beating the boys, like, why should a male athlete who's up and coming not look to Rachel Franklin and be like, she's fast, so I want to be like her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's so nice when guys, and you see that, hopefully younger boys are looking up more to, Hollywood female role models now, because I know there's a big movement in film and whatnot. But even as a kid, it's just girls kind of look up to the male role models, and boys look up to the male role models. So hopefully, like, boys are starting to realise that it's not a shameful thing to look up to girls and be like, I want to be as good as her.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Those are all my questions. Oh, apart from, did you have any pre-comp routines?
I needed a good warm up, me, because I was always rubbish in the first round. So I'd skip like for quite a long time, and then get on the pads with my coach, Peter Roberts. So it was just music, really was my go-to.
What was your go-to song?
Oh God, I've got loads. I really like listening to sort of angry music.
Yeah. No, I get that.
But there's this one song called "The Way" by Zach. I think it's Hemsey or something. And the reason I always listen to that song is there was a YouTube video that was called Master Your Life, that was just this guy talking through like all these images of like CrossFit, Muay Thai, like loads of things, and it was basically about using your own mind to, push yourself that little bit further, like, and in that I would just watch that YouTube video and listen to his words, because he would always say about, like, why are you any different? Why are you less than the person in front of you? Why not use your energy to be the bigger person and push yourself more? And it was just a really motivating video, and I loved it. So that song was on that video, and I always listened to that before I
that was like part of your routine.
Yeah. I'd always watch the video, and then I would listen to I'd just have the song on, and when I was skipping and stuff. But that's
so good. Usually I ask, did you have any routines, and most people say no. I would always, have you heard of the film Remember the Titans?
Yeah.
I would always, the scene like towards the end where he's getting them all riled up, but he's like, you blitz all night. I would be like sat there watching, like, me and my friend Rachel, when we went away to compete, she'd be like, you ready to go? And I was like, yeah, just a second. And then playing that on YouTube, just like, okay, now I'm ready.
I'm ready and good to go. I was exactly the same. And I think if you asked any boxer that, like, you do have to get into like a sort of mindset, like, I remember it's so stupid. I went over to Thailand in 2015 to train and to fight, and there was this really one mental song that they used to play in the stadium, and it's totally random. It's not even, it was in a foreign language, totally bizarre, and now that's on my pre-fight playlist, because it reminds me of being in the stadium, and I can smell like all the Thai oil, and I'm like ready to go, and if anybody that comes on my shuffle, my car, people are like, what's that? I'm like, well, it's a funny story. But yeah, it's just funny how like songs like can transport me like anywhere. Absolutely. Like really can transport me anywhere. So I totally get in the zone like when I hear certain songs.
Yeah, that's good.
My Crazy Thai song is one of them.
I'm just imagining you at Tesco car park, like just sat in the car, just absolutely headbanging before going in.
ready for the frozen pizzas.
And what would you say were your boxing career highlights? Because it sounds like you've competed in some amazing places in front of pretty big crowds.
So I actually won the national championships in 2015 at York Hall, which is a very old, well-known boxing venue. Yeah. So that was amazing for me. So I boxed my very, very first match and I won, but then I lost my next 4 and was like ready for sacking it off. I thought something's just not right here. And that's when I ended up moving to Manx ABC. And then I went on to win like my next like 8 or 9 in a row, including winning the national championships. And I won both my fights in the championships by technical knockout as well. So I really couldn't have, if you'd asked me after like say that third fight that I'd lost, that I would then go on to win the national championships and like get a title, like I would have just laughed at you, to be honest.
That is the thing of like a Disney sport film.
Yeah. I mean, it was just amazing. I just can't believe I've done it, to be honest. But I've boxed, like you say, I've been in the presence of some incredible female boxers like Mary Kom. Dervla Duffy is a really, really good Irish boxer that I boxed over in Dublin. I lost to her in the final of the Esker Cup, but I remember her coming up to me at the end and she was like, "Are you in the army?" And I was like, "No, why?" And she's like, "Never boxed anybody that fit before." And I was like, "Yes, nice. Winner."
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's things like that. I've boxed girls that like are on GB now, and I've just been in really, really good company. And but the national championships definitely was like one of up there with one of my most proud sporting moments. Just to put Isle of Man on the map was nice as well, and to win it for myself was just ace, and to put Manx ABC up there, like they've not had a national title yet. Like Matthew Rennie's done amazing for Isle of Man boxing. He's a Commonwealth Youth silver medal and stuff, but I've got a wee national title now, so Isle of Man is on the map.
What changed when you moved to ABC?
I think just the training was a little bit different, the coaching was a bit different. Like I say, there wasn't loads of seniors at the time, so I got a lot of time with the coaches, which I was really grateful for. And I was also training for an Ironman at the time as well, so my fitness was probably, just go squeeze like improving. But yeah, it just all worked well. Me and Peter got on really well, like as boxer and coach, and we just worked really well together, and that was it. So yeah.
And if anyone is listening to this and decides that they'd like to give boxing a go, what would be your words of wisdom?
Just go for it. Yeah, go in, forget about everybody else that's there, push yourself to the absolute limit, the absolute max. Like, I'll sort of think like, God, if anybody ever sees me like coming out of a boxing session, they'll pass me on the street, like cross over. I remember when I stayed with my friend Anna, and I used to come in and I'd be like, "I'm sorry, I'm going in for a shower now," because it's just gross. Like, your hands stink, you're sweaty, like, and there's obviously all the weight cut side that sometimes goes with boxing as well. So I would be dripping sometimes when I got home. So yeah, just forget about everyone else and focus on yourself, and do it. Like, it's so much fun. It really is so much fun. And if you do progress, just the benefits that come with it are just crazy. I'm more content to walk outside the walls and catch a breeze. I'm more inclined to climb on bio, ride internal seas. I'm more alive to vibe inside a mansion full of trees. I do this for a reason that they can't pretend to glean. I lose myself infused in something more than what they've seen. I'm not a slave to greed, I don't embrace your make-believe. I've never been for sale, no matter what they think I need.